Добрый день. Я рад всех сегодня поприветствовать на 11-м форуме Positive Hack Days. Мы начинаем нашу работу. Сегодня первый день. И сегодня мы собрались поговорить.
We gathered to talk about a tectonic shift in the Russian cybersecurity, if any. What happened in the last 3 to 4 months and what expects us in the future? Let me introduce our panelists. Vladimir Bengen from the Ministry of Digital Transformation, Vladimir Gryukov from Rostelecom Solar, and Sergey Lebed from Sber. I am Alexei Novikov from Positive Technologies. So if we look back into the past, into the last 3 months, the number of days when our monitoring team and incident reaction team was idling goes down to zero. We had a lot of work, no idling at all. The number of incidents grew up by at least 3 times, and many of the incidents became public. I mean, they have been actively discussed in mass media, internet, shops, government agencies and services were involved, were affected by those attacks, and they even continue now, worldwide, and in Russia in particular. If we look at the industries which were attacked most often, I can say almost all of them have been attacked. Any industry is interested to hackers. If it belongs to Russia, it is attacked. But if we look at the public area, we pay attention to the fact that financial industry, I believe, were least affected. And we didn't know of, we know only about a few large-scale incidents, if any, at all. My first question to Sergey Vasilyevich is as follows. What about the last 3 months? How critical they were to your company, or were they critical at all? Well, actually, we divide our life into before February 24 and after February 24. Before talking about cyber threats, let me talk about fraud. First of all, it's a traditional problem and area for the banks. Before the events, you know, we got about 60,000 fraud attempts. That is 100,000 attempts per day. After the events, we had for a week 0 fraud calls. It looked as if no fraud at all, but after the first week, after week 1, we have more and more fraud attempts, and now we have about 50% of fraud level in comparison to the time before February 24. From Ukraine, fraud moved to other areas, other countries. It's very important for us because we have been talking for a long time, because most of the fraud calls used to come from Ukraine, and this is 100% proven. DDoS attacks now, from the viewpoint of organization, they are the simplest kind of attacks, and we have a very interesting picture. Before February 24, we had about 1 attack per week. It was a serious event, a serious incident. A lot of services were alerted, conferences held, but At a certain point, we had about 46 simultaneous DDoS attacks coordinated by different groups using different tools and focused on different services of Sberbank. And today, DDoS attack for us is something casual. We are under threat, under attack every minute, and we didn't have such peaks before at all. And we monitor the situation. What would I like to stress, to note about DDoS attacks? First, new organizational ways of DDoS organization, of DDoS performance. There are groups, active groups, which are focused against Russia. They have consist of about 100,000 people. There are moderators who coordinate their activities, targets, and tools. A few words about tools. Today, we have a lot of tools that coordinators offer as containers on resources that you can buy. They offer infrastructure, addresses, gateways to break through the perimeter defense. You can install such generators on Android phones, and they can get attempts from the command center and take part in the attacks. After the completion of our special military operation, I believe we shall have a lot of bot zones that would be forgotten, but will continue automatically generating attacks. One more interesting attack. At a certain moment, we saw that a lot of usual people in their home networks get to our resources at a very high speed. We analyzed the situation and we saw that the multimedia player was broken, that legitimate users downloaded together with a script with resources that automatically connect to certain services of our bank, and legitimate users who just watched movies, but at the same time they, without knowing about that, launched a very complex attack. Talking about the tools, the DDoS attacks have been learned very well, but all the tools that exist in the world are actually used. For a long time, we fix IP addresses from which attacks are launched. So we make snapshots of each and every attack. We have a large collection. Before we had 5 to 6 types of attacks. Now almost all the attacks that are in our textbooks are actually used. As for the breakthrough attempts, infrastructure breakthrough, I cannot tell you anything new because banks traditionally have always been the most interesting target for hackers, and most of the attacks have been rebuffed at the very early stages. Because of the perimeter defense that have been installed in the banks beforehand. So that's it. Thank you. Thank you. The financial industry was the best prepared for such attacks, and for most of the financial companies, this is normal. As for other companies, after February, they wondered, they didn't even realize that they might be interesting to hackers. And now any Russian company can be a target, which have never been such targets before. The question is to Sergey, what are the most frequent vectors of attack? So we had a lot of recommendations, what to protect against, what are the actual trends. Can you tell us about the most dangerous vectors? Good morning, colleagues. What can I say, talking about the threat landscape? In the last 3 months, within the first month and a half, we saw all the threats that we have been discussing for the last 18 months. DDoS attacks were already covered. I'm not going to tell you anything else. That was the first thing that we saw, something that could be done quickly and easily. Just one more point. We see involvement, not only the previously created botnets, but involvement of legal, legitimate users and their home devices. And those devices make their owners participants of the DOS attack. Just when you open your browser, do what you want to do, but at the same time, automatically you are part of the DDoS attack. It's very difficult to filter such attacks. As for filtering DDoS attacks, we also involved the federal level. Vladimir can tell you more about it. Which helped us block the traffic at the borders of the Russian Federation. And it helped a lot of organization. What about the new threat, new trend now? We filter foreign IP addresses at transborder crosses. They go to VPN networks now, VPN networks that exist in the Russian territory. DDoS attacks from IP addresses through VPN networks. I have nothing else to say about DDoS. This activity is well coordinated. Every day, the cyber criminals have targets, and everyone focus on that target, and the attacks is really huge and massive, large scale. What else? A number of foreign vendors moved away from the Russian market, left the Russian market, and we saw that a lot of cloud services stopped working in Russia. Various tools, then replacement of content at websites by loading malicious software through banners. Yes, then changes in source code, open source and even non-open source. So we saw some products that produced bad content to the users who installed software. Then there was a small wave of encryption tools. You read it in the press about encryption of a number of resources in a number of organizations. The latest trend is publishing information about leaking data leaks. What kind of organization data is leaked? It's not one industry. They try to reach everything they can reach. The other party tries to get positive for them information phone, mass media phone. They say, we broke through that company, we blocked access to a certain resources, and they publish it. It's a leak about attacks. Then another trend is that behind that background of DDoS attacks, which continue, we see penetration into our resources, capturing resources. What is the further goal? This is a big question. And the leaks that we have now prove the assessments of a number of organizations. Penetration started about 2 months after the first attacks. So we might expect serious incidents. Of course, we cannot expect that the leaks are going to stop. They try to break through and then publish information about such breakthroughs and leaks. Then on May 9, you know what happens to one of our video hostings. It was done specifically for May 9. So these are the trends, these are the tendencies. Thank you very much. Yes, apart from large-scale attacks, we can note another important factor, which is foreign vendors leaving the Russian market, especially cybersecurity vendors. And some companies, Russian companies, were without protection or with a much worse protection than before. And now the Russian vendors must take social responsibility to take emergency measures to help Russian companies in this situation. Vladimir, what do you think about two Vladimirs, two Sergeys? It's difficult to distinguish between them. So what about this factor? Monitoring, investigation, and Russian cyber security. What will happen? Well, I tried to imagine how to describe my current activities. I have an 8-year-old son. We play chess, and I play chess better than him. And when I talk about the classical company that we protect an attacker, has a certain potential, but we expect to rebuff all those attacks. But then my son says, "Dad, look, a bird," and then he sneaks my queen from the chessboard. So yes, we have all kind of firewalls, and then hop, and there is no firewall. And you have to play without your queen. So, and now I play not with one on one board. I play simultaneously with 20 to 30 counterparts. Then a company says, there is a board. I don't have any pawns, anything. Let's put on our figures, our pawns on the chessboard because it's clean. I have nothing, while the enemy has everything. So it's very difficult for me to add anything to what I have already said. We have statistics, and we play simultaneously on several boards, and the situation at each chessboard is different. And what does the Russian industry do? How does it react? Let me tell you about my personal experience. I have much more social responsibility now. We have players that we believed to be our competitors. Now we join efforts with them after February 24. Now our key competitors are our key partners. We work together, we exchange data, we exchange information. We even say it's your customer, but I have some information about this. Oh, this is my customer. I don't have resources. Can you help me here? And we have a lot of situation like that. Each commercial company has a big choice. For example, if there is an incident at our customer, that information is important for the industry and for the country, because everyone is attacked by the same people in the same way, and it's important the information to be spread, to be disseminated, so that everyone would learn on those attacks. But on the other hand, we are a commercial company, and the customers say, okay, this is our secret, and please don't share this data to anyone. So each time we try to convince the customer that he has to leak at least part of this information to all the rest. Everything which happens to the Russian cyber security is not the problem of that particular customer. It's a problem of the entire Russian industry. It's involvement of each and every customer into the general landscape of social responsibility. We have a lot of negative examples here. About a year ago, we found one vulnerability at one of the customers. The vulnerability is not a problem at all. And if we shared the data, severity is 4 or 5 at the 10 scale. 10-point scale. And this vulnerability is known. Hackers, cyber criminals know about that vulnerability. What is important here? When the vulnerability is found, disclosed, we have to share that information, because we have to patch our security software. We have to install new version. And I am happy that we have a news bulletin now, that our community published that bulletin. And please, it's very important to read that bulletin, to read all the data and install patches on the Russian software, especially on widely used software, and the vendors and providers. If we have such situations, we're in the situation when we together must repel the attacks, and we must share information about vulnerabilities and about ways to close that vulnerability. Not just a release that there are some patches, but tell us about what kind of patches, against what kind of vulnerabilities. So I call on all of you to share information. Despite all the problems with giving your information to your competitors, we have to protect us all and not to work only at a local level.
Спасибо, Владимир.
Thank you, Vladimir. It's a very important note. Collaboration and data sharing is what we badly need now, because we cannot cope with all the attacks on our own. We have to work together. We have to collaborate. The number of attackers is much higher than we can imagine, and their potential is much greater than the potential of any one individual company. Yes, we have vulnerabilities. It's inevitable. It takes time to patch those vulnerabilities. Personal data leaks, email leaks go on. Each third, one incident of three stems from unpatched software. Because vulnerability was disclosed 1 year ago, the patch was published 11 months ago, but the customer didn't patch the software. As a result, an old, well-known vulnerability worked, and the hackers broke through. Talking about May 9, let's recall the previous holiday, May 1, when the new normative base for cybersecurity was published, number 250, Decree 250, which was caused by the challenges that the industry faces now, that our companies face now, and which require a lot of things to do in the area of cybersecurity. Vladimir? So, May 1, Decree 250, now a lot of companies do not quite understand what they have to do, which way to move, or to run, rather. Please comment. Let me try to comment quickly. First, Sergey was quite right to say, to comment about DDoS. We have a lot of DDoS attacks now for the first time in this country. We together coordinate our activities and try to repel such attacks every day using all the tools that are available to all the security people, cybersecurity people of our country. That is good. DDoS has some origin at a certain level, and if inside the country we can work with the hosters, with those who lend the servers, but as for the foreign countries, at a certain point the government offered a service. Any company can say, can you disconnect me from the outer world? And we can do that at the border of the Russian Federation to help them with a DDoS attack. We have smart tools of this kind. We have a lot of things that people who live abroad, the Russians living abroad, say we don't have access to certain resources. Maybe you can provide us with access to the Russian territory for us. Maybe the attack is already removed. So we collaborate with the people inside Russia and outside Russia about all the incidents, all the types of attacks. All the attacks have been discussed before we had exercises to deal with such attacks. I would like to say that we were ready for such attacks. No, exercises are one thing, but real life is the other thing. I liked the social responsibility topic, and I would like even to tell you more about, because social responsibility of all the vendors in this country. I had 3 dialogues in the last 2 weeks, before the holidays and after, about their vulnerabilities. Not all of them are working in the right way because the Russian software is under the microscope.
And it's very important here that Russian developers should take a lot of responsibility with regard to their products. You're all of interest to the people. And correspondingly, if a critical vulnerability has been found, you shouldn't stay quiet. You shouldn't be afraid of something, of being punished. But on the contrary, being socially responsible, you should run fast and say, this has happened, and everybody has to get updated. On the other hand, all customers have the responsibility. So what is this decree all about? If in the past there had been some requirements, they're still there today, and you must comply. If, for instance, you are a geoinformational system or you're part of the critical information infrastructure. So the responsibility for the information infrastructure, the responsibility for not having any incidents. So the decree is all about that. It's talking about the large scope of organization, not only in the government and huge companies in the country and a lot of other organizations. There were a lot of questions about who coined the phrase about the critical infrastructure. This phrase applies to legal entities that have critical infrastructure sites. All the rest, they also have this decree applied to them. So the decree is all about. Today, the information security is in the focus of attention of the country's leadership, and that the head of an organization carries personal responsibility for the implications that may happen as a result of an attack. Then the decree says that there should be a person and a division in the organization, an employee belonging to the leadership team, one of the deputies of the chief executive officers, so responsible for information security. And again, it's not the responsibility for compliance. This happens quite often. People come to us and say, I've done everything. I've counted all the critical infrastructure sites. I have ticked all the boxes. We all know how you can meet the requirements. You could do it formally. But it looks that as of the 24th of February, this is going to go away. So the requirements are to be regarded as basic hygiene. So you have to first provide that hygiene and then take a look at what next has to be protected, especially if you're a major government corporation or you're a strategic company, so on and so forth. Because now the chief executive officer of the organization carries direct responsibility for incidents rather than just for compliance. Also, we have to understand that the numbers of information security experts and specialists, professionals, is very low in this country. So there's a huge hunger in the organization for such employees. That's why the decree says directly that you must attract, if needed, specialized organizations so that they should help you provide information security. There are a lot of questions regarding the fact, or just to the tune of where can we get the funds, because this costs money. And here, we will be able to help you in only the following. If an organization or a business, for instance, if it's about business, it's about commerce, if the company has funds for IT, then they need to find the money for information security. Same thing applies to the government organizations. They all follow the digital transformation programs, and we are now checking all the digital transformation programs to see if the information security is taken good care of them. We are passing these documents and looking if they comply with these new requirements, if they address the new risks and threats. It's important to take a look at that. There are a lot of questions about the decree. Because there's a point there, according to which organizations should provide access for monitoring to the Federal Security Service in certain cases. And they're asking how and what, how it's going to look. Will the FSB come and at any point, at any time, are they going to install some devices such as SORM? To this, I can say that now, within FSB, the following procedure is being drafted, and in the shortest time, it is going to be published. An important point, one of the last ones, is about import substitution, because it's a separate threat that actually we have been talking since 2014, and everybody was aware of that. Everybody was aware of the fact that purchasing foreign products doesn't only give you new opportunities, but also poses risks. And for all these years, we've been trying to push the market to import substitution. And if you take a look at all the questions related to regulation and substitution, it was all along the lines of please substitute if you can. And the decree has a much more stringent language. And it was done on purpose because over the past few years, we were having business coming to from one side, the commerce that didn't do information security, saying we fully depend on software, foreign software, and we don't have Russian counterparts. On the other hand, there are companies who say we've produced everything, you just push the customers to migrate to our products. So the decree says, so we all have 2.5 years to migrate security to domestic products. And now in the Ministry of Digital Development, we're doing a lot of work where the market, the industry is coming to us saying what they can't get replaced, they're substituted. For instance, we have this information security tool, and if it goes away tomorrow, my security goes down, and I can't find any local products that could substitute that. And in that case, in these cases, we start working together, with vendors and government corporations. This is the story that we're prepared to push together with you. So please don't keep silent. Tell us what you need us to do for you. Coming back to social responsibility, it has to be borne by everyone. And the story about the leakage of personal data that's been happening is unacceptable. Everybody has to understand this. We all know, we know everything, we see everything, and when I say that we have a suspicion about a leakage of health data, something like that, this is not going to stay without attention. This is something that we are approaching very seriously now. And it won't stop with some fines or reprimands. But before we start discussing what punishments are going to be introduced tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, how we're going to punish people for these things, today it's more like a plea to everyone to perform, to show this social responsibility. Because in the past, we didn't have to deal with such a large scale of personal data leakage. The criminal community had problems selling the data, to monetize this data. It was a complicated process, but today the purposes are different. Today, a lot of malefactors don't have the purpose of monetization. They've already monetized. They've been paid money for just, playing in this playground, which is the whole civil infrastructure of this country. So yes, I like this term, social responsibility. I would like to say a couple of words about leakages, because the audience is quite diverse. People are listening to us online. Every morning starts, every morning starts like this. One of my customers calls me and says, strengthen security. And I say, what happened? According to the secret information, today there will be an unprecedented attack on the Russian territory. Okay, I say, and what information are you talking about? Where does it come from? We seem to be communicating with regulators. It's from a secret Telegram channels of Ukrainian hackers. You know, everybody's listening. Those hackers channels. I think my mom is also signed to Telegram channels. I'm sure she has Telegram on her phone. And then Vladimir said something important, that indeed there are more leakages that are happening. But what's important? Well, it's my own personal opinion, but I'm sure that you'll all agree with that. In the information war, the leakages come to be much larger in scale. But in the past, what you had to do what you could find in Telegram channels was like 90% that were fakes, and now it's 95 to 97%. So of the 50 announced leakages, only 2 will be realized. So it's much more often that malefactors don't get anything confidential, but just push this agenda so as to affect people's minds. I thought you would say that you already have a habit of opening the internet every morning and take a look what new things have become known about you, knowing how much food you have ordered over the past year and so on, things like that. You know, the story with Yandex leakage has been talked about a lot. Somebody started to build rankings. We have an office in Nikitsky, and there are a lot of great places there and then people ask, how come you spent 60,000 rubles a year going out? So actually, you can find a lot of ways, getting fun with the leaked information. But on a serious note, drawing the results, what's happening in the information space right now? We have found ourselves in a fight with a lot of hackers, and all the risks that have been discussed for many years have started to become real. At some point in time, a shift happened in terms of understanding how the international security vendors behave, and the government directly started to require, through this order, to get the social responsibility considered more seriously by the actors. It wouldn't be bad to understand what else must happen so that, let me be blunt, we as security people should stay without work, or might it not happen at all, ever? So are there any prerequisites for this to happen? Or no, we need some more time to work on these questions. I suggest that we start with Vladimir. Well, maybe there's something we're missing, something that we need to do for this shift to happen. Well, the decree had another point. It was devoted to the analysis of security, of protectedness, something that people have to pay attention to. There are 2 sub-points there, sub-items. On the one hand, the government will define a list of such organizations that need to run this review of protectedness, and then to run this analysis. There are 2 comments here. The government will also draft or adopt the typical regulations or job description for the security person. So there are a lot of questions here. Should they have a special education? What will their responsibility be? How these regulations could be applied to both large organizations and very small ones? These regulations will have two ideas: that this head of security, one of the second-level managers in the organization, they will be responsible, or they will carry full responsibility for everything happening. And therefore, they would have all the authority as part of business processes and others to do what they are supposed to do. Unfortunately, today, the security is some additional function. Business is going somewhere, creating some tools, and next to them, there's a security guy saying, we've created something, please don't do something so that the regulator should not complain. Now it is different. Now they have the authority to become part of all the processes in the organization. But with this, they're also responsible for all the incidents that are happening. Coming back to the security reviews, they're asking us how we're going to do that. Is it going to be a classical pen test or something else? So there's this concept of level of security, and there's also a separate item saying that the organizations, including the list, should report to the government. And so questions coming to us say either we should report by saying yes or no, and then I must say no, because we're going to read these documents which will define a typical scope. So classic security analysis or review. And also they will contain a template of a report. So these reports will be the tools for us to make sure that the decree is being complied with. Of course, this includes a lot of responsibility because signatures will be listed, the head of security, the experts who've put together this report, so that we could see who wrote that. How to do it such that we should stay without work? Well, perhaps each of us should focus on information security in a serious way, maybe 20 hours every day. And unless we do that, nothing will radically change in this country. Thank you. Any other answers? Look, colleagues. We have two words in the title of our today's discussion: tectonic shift. So let me first dwell on the word shift. In our opinion, the shift has happened. Those who used to tell us that we're not interested, we're not of anybody's interest, we have nothing to protect, so go away, we're not going to do that. No law applies to us. Finally, they have come out of their comfort zone. So they came out from a vacuum of a feeling not being of interest to anyone. So this shift has happened. And I think, well, I have a cautious, let's say, hope that more and more they will start understanding this against the background of what's happening now. So we're hoping that a shift in this area, coming out of the comfort zone and starting to address and continuously work on information security. We're hoping that this will become a trend, and it will be a growing trend. So in this area, a shift has happened. To Vladimir's here, we're talking about collaboration. Let me put it differently. It's about acting together. It's something that we have been calling for several years. And now we are hearing that from other people. Let's do it together. And it's nice. We like hearing that. So finally, people started to understand that this should be done together. Well, some people started to feel part of the the government Gossopka program. A operational headquarters was created involving the leading Gossopka centers, and through this joint work we were able to work out a number of recommendations and to neutralize and forestall several threats. So we also had this shift. So we hadn't had this experience so in organizing such an informal structure. Now to the word tectonic. As I said, some organizations have come out of the comfort zone, and in this respect, this indeed is a tectonic shift. Quite a lot of effort had to be applied. I'm hoping that this is just going to become a trend, that with this trend is becoming easier for us to work. As to the question of whether we're going to stay without work, currently, I can't even predict that. Well, predictions are not something that you are likely to be right with. I would say that in the future it would be bad. This will mean that everybody has taken this part of the social responsibility, starting to work 20 hours a day on this. But if you look at these past 2 or 3 months, that everything that we have been talking about, all the threats that have been realized, are not something new. It's something that the organization hadn't done anything about. It's about unclosed vulnerabilities. It's about disregard for the very basic measures. It's about not wanting to address this. I think that 24th of February, so the press says that is going to be a new world, a new reality. I'm hoping that the 24th of February is going to become a turning point for creating a new information security world in Russia. So people will start looking differently, working differently, regarding differently. And when I say differently, I mean compared to those who have not noticed that before. For us, it's all like usual. I agree. And just to continue what Sergei said, yesterday, MSK released an internet bulletin, and I'm hoping that within 5 days, everybody will get updated, complying with every recommendation. And this will be indeed the security, the real security that every one of us should do every day. Thank you. Great. So we now have update SLAs. Great. Vladimir. Just a couple of words. Well, after the two regulators, it's quite difficult to give any recommendations. I would rather say something different. With the rate of digitization that Ministry of Digital Development is setting, and with the growth of interest of malefactors to our assets, I don't believe we're going to have a lot of time to sleep. But staying without work, oh my God. I could do the programming, I do coding some time ago, and I come back to it. It's paid well. So, colleagues, we are now in a very historic and interesting point of time. But in terms of cybersecurity, especially, today is a time of cyber heroes. Most of security tools have come from the West, and they're going away. Most of them are degrading because no updates, no support is being provided for them. Licenses are not being resolved. It's a very important question. We are losing the source of information about threats. Today, for the most part, they all come from the West. Yes, of course, we also have a local company that provides analytics. But let's be frank. In the first place, we were using well-known sources that are also gradually closing access to Russian companies and from the Russian territory. It's very good that we have BDU-Stack, but it's obvious that one needs to step up this threat intelligence work to strengthen. It's also a question how is it going to happen, whether the government will control this or the markets will lead the way. But one of the risks today that will provide effect later. It's about the degradation of threat intelligence solution. So a lot has been said here about social responsibility. It's all good, but it's also a question that this information, this collaboration, this social responsibility should be orchestrated. I think the government should play a role there. And today, this is something that's missing in the market. Today, we have got, from the start of special military operation, more than 250 unique recommendations that we got from FSB, FSTEC, and Roskomnadzor. This had never happened before, and it's very great. Colleagues have said that these recommendations are quite easy to understand, that they need to be implemented. It would be good if this kind of work should have been done earlier. Of course, we are hoping that something is going to change in this country in terms of coordination of this work. Today we have leaders here and they're doing a great job, but we see some unthinking among them. So, considering Decree 250, considering all the events that are happening, we're expecting a shortage of cybersecurity professionals to the tune of 35,000 people. Today, our estimate is 20,000 people, and it's going to be 35,000 tomorrow. So these are the people that should not just be trained, but also get practical experience working. And we are still using the meter access, go to Science Institute, because we don't have similar resources here in the market. It's also a question to the market and the regulator. When are we going to get this entry point where one could get answers in terms of a methodology, education, new risk information, where you could get that? And concluding my speech, I would like to say once again that today indeed is a unique time where every one of you can become a hero this time, to become part of the cybersecurity textbooks that's being written now, including people who are represented here. Thank you very much. I don't know. Regarding the collaboration, there's a National Coordination Center, and I'm sure that they have been talking about this coordination function. Look, colleagues, over the past few years, the National Coordination Center has conducted and is continuing to conduct a lot of work to inform the market about threats, but no separate player, no separate GOSOPCA member would not be able to collect and analyze all these threats. So of each one of you who will inform us about this threat, tell us how to fight it, on each one of you depends how this knowledge is going to be disseminated. We're prepared to do that, and we're doing that even now. And those of you who inform us about the threats, who do not stay away from sharing the information they get, they are contributing, and we are prepared to do it further. But only together we can create this system through the personal contribution of each and every one of you. Thank you very much. At this note, I suggest that we conclude our session. Thank you very much, all the participants. And I hope that the tectonic shift has happened and we're going to move forward. Thank you.